Not everyone is a bone collector, usually because they prefer not to be single. "I'm not having that thing in my house," or "Will you stop stinking the place out?" comes with the territory. But if you're willing to buy your way out of trouble, or you are indeed single and happy, boil and bleach away. And here's Roy to show you how. First, here's what can go wrong.
This is one of the worst examples of a skull that I've had back, and this is a kudu that I shot over in South Africa, and you can see they really have done a terrible job on it. It's split, wrecked. There's not a lot you could do with that to rectify it, unfortunately.
A few mistakes there, all of which we'll try and show you how to avoid. Now it's time to clean the heads while the water boils. Roy has thawed 2 roebucks overnight.
So the most important thing to do before you start boiling is to obviously make sure that all the skin is off, because trying to boil it with the skin on really does become very tiresome. So again, you've got to cut round and try and get as much of the flesh off as you possibly can. And all we're going to do is just bend the knife in and cut up along the pedicles, again keeping it tight in, and then cutting up into the base of the coronets.
Roy does his best to clean the heads, but don't bother with the eyes. They're easier to sort out after the boiling. Roy removes the jawbone, which he'll also boil and bleach. They hold lots of information about your deer.
So here we've got one skinned off head and one jawbone. Again, just got a little bit of excessive meat left on here. Just run the knife up there and trim that off. But again, making sure to be very careful with your fingers.
We head outside, and it's a quick dip in some cold water, taking care not to damage the nasal bones.
Just give them a quick dip in, just take any excessive blood out that we can do. Again, just be very careful when you're immersing them in water, even like this, just to keep the coronets above the water if you can when you're leaving them overnight, because you don't want any of the scum just collecting in the coronets there, because once you start boiling, then you don't want to be cleaning the coronets off because you'll lose colour.
Normally he'd soak them like this overnight, but today it's a quick in and out.
Drop the head in, and again I want to suspend it, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring the water level up to the coronets rather than push it down, because if we push it down, all that's going to happen is we're going to be pushing the nasal bone against the base.
With the water boiling, we can add the heads and jaws and something a little extra. Normally it's bicarbonate of soda, but needs must.
It's going to have to be a finished power tab, and see if that works. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Oh, that's made it bubble. That's interesting. So, but you can see all the scum starting to form on the top here. Whatever you do, don't think it's soup.
Roy regularly checks the water level. It needs to boil for 25 minutes, enough time for a cuppa in a very special mug. After 25 minutes, they're done, and Roy has made a slight boo-boo. He says it's probably best to cut the skull before it gets piping hot and the bones get brittle.
When you're working on the heads, bear in mind that all of this sinew and everything dries on incredibly quickly if you keep it out for too long. So you want to try and get it all done and off as quickly as you can as soon as you take it out from boiling. So we'll just try and cut through in here. As I say, I'm not sure if this is going to work because the skull might be a little bit fragile. Got to try and remember my woodworking classes. And there we go. So we've met up. And you can see from the back there, we've got quite a good line. And it should lay pretty much flat.
Luckily, he gets away with it, and the skull is starting to look the part. While it's piping hot, it's vital that all the leftover flesh is removed, including the eyeballs. It might be worth investing in some dental equipment to assist with the smaller orifices.
Pick up all your bits as well as you go, because the dogs love nothing more than eating all the bits and then regurgitating it in your living room later on in the evening. So, like horses' hooves. They're drawn to them.
With all the obvious bits gone, Roy needs to secure the head. A drill and 4 well-positioned holes in a piece of wood make it easy.
And then all I'm going to do is put the antlers in like that, and that will act as a bit of an anchor point for when we're cleaning. So
Roy dons shades and a Mac. Looking like an extra from The Matrix, he power hoses the heads.
Be very careful when you're pressure washing, because you want to get rid of all of the material that's tucked up under the coronets. So we're going to tip him back over again and wash quite heavily under here, but you don't want to be taking any colour from the coronets.
It's an effective tool, and all that's left to do is the bleaching. This is the most surprising tip of all. This gem came from his hairstylist. Yes, Roy's hair is professionally styled and possibly dyed.
With the liquid peroxide, if you just pour it on, it'll roll off. Whereas with the cream peroxide, it stays on there and froths up. You just pour it on, make sure it's in all the nooks and the crannies, leave it overnight and wash it off in the morning. Obviously when you're handling peroxide, just be aware because it is a bleach. I'm just going to tip him upside down, and again being very careful within this process, making sure that we don't get any on the antlers, because if you spill any on the antlers it will take the colour completely off there. All of that in there like so, making sure you get it all in there, and again a lot in the brain cavity. You want to make sure that you build it up just over under the coronets there, so you get all that bleached all down the nasal bones, on the eye sockets, all the bone there, up into the eye cavities, but we did that when we had it upside down, and that's pretty much it. So all we'll do is leave that overnight, wash it off in the morning and leave it to dry, and away you go.
It's vital to keep this stuff away from animals, children, and tell everyone in the house what you're up to, but they'll probably work that out for themselves.